Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everybody. Break's coming soon, but thanks for hanging with us. Maya, thank you for the time. Really excited about this because
I
we
am
get
too.
a lot of the internally focused DEI conversations, but as a creative director, really interested to hear more about how you're thinking about and building and launching into some of the initiatives more consumer focused and global. But first, can you give us a quick backdrop, your background, how you
Yeah,
got to the creative director at Delta?
sure. I'll make it super quick since I'm standing between you and the break. I am so happy to be here. First of all, thank you for having me. I started my career, and I'm going to make this quick. It sounds like a long story, but mostly in retail, mostly in Atlanta, brands like Macy's corporate, Home Depot corporate for most of my career. And then took my show on the road a little bit at Tuesday Morning in Dallas, Comcast, NBC Universal, and then made my rounds to FinTech back in Atlanta. And then Delta called in April 2021, and I've been there since.
Fantastic. Thanks for that backdrop. It pretty broad categories to be a part of,
yes.
but great experiences that I'm sure have led to a lot of the work you're doing at Delta. But you pick. Do you want to start internal or external?
I think internal because inward out.
There we go.
Let's do that.
Fair enough. So internally, we did a little bit of prep work, and I can legitimately say you guys walk the walk. But we'll start with kind of the 110 and the 110 coalition that Watch Your CEO has been very proud of and been backing and working on bringing more partners in. Can you share a little bit about that coalition, and then we'll get into some more of the tactical things that Delta has going on?
Yeah, I think when you and I talked, in addition to the 110 coalition, so Ed Bastian is our CEO at Delta, and he has made such a commitment, not just in the press, but actually in the action, right? And so his commitment to bringing on diverse suppliers, diverse candidates, diverse talent, we have just really made an effort to make sure that our words are aligned with our actions. And so things like skills first training, right? Skills first hiring, where we're looking at candidates and we're saying, hey, your experience, your capabilities, your background may surpass the fact that you don't have a 4-year college degree. So we want to level that playing field for people to be able to come into Delta, contribute at a high level, but not be stagnant or even just not even put in the conversation because they don't have that 4-year degree. There's so many factors that influence why someone can go to college and why they cannot. And so we're really thinking about how we're bringing in talent, how we're working with suppliers, and how we're making sure that Delta is an inclusive and equitable place to work.
That's fantastic, and a really important part, I think, when we look at qualifications, and we'll touch on the apprenticeship program that you guys are building, but qualifications, and I know our friends at Google are doing quite a bit of work on this. It doesn't mean a 4-year degree. There can be skill training, there can be job training that doesn't mean a 4-year degree in order to have a path towards that career.
Absolutely. I started my career with a 2-year art degree and was able to get into rooms and have mentors and people who taught me and showed and kind of paved the way for me. I went back to school later in life after I raised my children. And so everyone has a story, everyone has a journey, and it's different than the stories and the journeys that we are accustomed to. And it looks different for everyone. And so we want to make sure that we're hearing those stories and bringing people along and bringing those people to the table, right? So when you exclude the different backgrounds, you kind of exclude your customers and their journeys and their stories. They're so different than ours.
Fair point. Yeah, absolutely. And the apprenticeship program you guys are doing internally.
Yep.
Once partners are on board, whether they're frontline or getting into, I forget the phrasing.
No, that's right. Frontline.
Frontline
Yeah.
into
merit,
into more
merit,
corporate.
Yes.
Yep.
Scale merit.
There you go. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that program, how it came to be, and how's it going thus far?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm not taking credit for all of the DE&I work that are amazing.
You're the one on stage. Go ahead.
Okay,
That's
okay.
it.
So what I've done, the apprenticeship program really helps our merit and scale employees kind of see different worlds, right? So when I say scale frontline, we're talking airport customer service. We're talking about the men and women that help us, check our bags and get our bags off of the conveyors, right? And so we want to be able to allow those individuals an opportunity to come onto the merit side, so the corporate side, and work in departments like marketing or communications, because some of them they've acquired some of those skills in past lives. They've acquired some of those skills just in the work that they do on the front line. And so these apprenticeship programs really partner these individuals with a mentor or a guide that can help them kind of navigate corporate politics. We don't have them, but to help them kind of understand just how to work in a corporate environment and make sure they're successful in doing so. And so we're not pulling people from the front line into the merit organization and just dropping them and saying, okay, figure it out. We're actually trying to make sure they understand and that they're successful in those roles.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's certainly something to take as a key learning across all orgs. But one of the things that also really impressed me as it kind of expanded off of that conversation was going upstream a little bit. So before they're even in Delta, how are you guys being more engaged in HBCUs and directing the career or letting them know there's opportunities for all ethnicities in various career paths, like marketing, like creative, like that may not be a natural fit or a thought process to an incoming freshman. So what kind of work are you guys doing on that end?
Absolutely. So our creative team is taking a page out of the Delta playbook, and we're making sure we're going to Clark Atlanta, we're going to Spelman, we're going to Morehouse, we're going to SCAD, we're going to Georgia State University, and we're looking at those groups of students where maybe it's not apparent that a creative career or profession would be for them. And we're talking about the diversity on the team, right? We're talking about how we are implementing the skills first and training, because even though they're in college, we want them to know that we have a commitment to recruiting and being inclusive and making sure that we're getting diverse perspectives, right? And so what we've done is really turned it up a notch because, okay, so we're in Georgia. UGA is a huge school. Everyone loves it in Atlanta. But when I hear, hey, we're going to have the dean of UGA come in and speak to our employees, or we're going to go to UGA and talk to their students, our team is like, okay, don't forget about Clark. Don't forget about Spelman. Don't forget about Morehouse. We need to have our voices, and they need to see us talk about our experiences and believe us, not just be figureheads, right? Believe us and understand that we are having a good experience at Delta so that they want to have those same experiences as well.
And you shared a story that I thought was really impactful, just, in that spirit of the inclusion, even just in the interviewing process.
Yes.
And somebody you just recently brought onto your team and his experience.
Yeah, so again, not my team, but I'll take the credit. Our managing director of international communications, Rasan Johnson, he was interviewing for a huge role within Delta, and he had gone through the process, and I hadn't met him, hadn't heard about him. We were sitting in a meeting, and his soon-to-be leader said, you know what, we were talking about diversity and inclusion, and she said, you know what, I just realized that Rasan had never interviewed with any person of color. And the conversation came about because I said, hey, in all of my years in all of the companies that I've worked for, I've never interviewed with an African-American person, which sounds ridiculous, but it was my truth. One person at the Home Depot in all of the interviews, and trust me, I've been on a lot of interviews. In all of the interviews that I had ever done, I had never interviewed with a Black woman, a Black person until Home Depot. And it made me want to work there because I could see myself in that person. And so you don't really understand the impact you're making when you're being intentional about every single part of the process. And so at that point, that leader said, please, we're so far down the path. He probably is going to get this role, but we really want you to meet Rasan. And I did. And I told him, I said, hey, you're here because of your qualifications. You're here because of your background. You have it. But I want you to be here because I am looking to you as a role model, because people on my team, they're looking to you as a role model. And your purpose is so much bigger than the work you're going to do. Just being in this seat is going to bring so many people along. So I need you to say yes to this role. So it was, I mean, hopefully that was the tipping point.
The closer,
the closer, yeah.
I love that. And a lot of the stories you shared were powerful, but I would say still a deficit in thinking about inclusions corporately. There's a lot of box checking, if you will. How representative are we? Are we meeting the representation numbers we're striving towards, as opposed to like getting upstream and having an open door and making sure that representation in all facets of the organization. So how do you guys facilitate that internally in terms of communication and making sure that that, you know, whatever internal or external that's being developed has representation in the right way, and it's not just check the box, make sure we have every ethnicity in an ad, or, you know, things like that?
I love that question. So beyond casting, because we talk about casting all the time, I think those are table stakes. Like everybody knows, like make the casting diverse. I hope. But you think about just things like wardrobe, right? So I've gotten wardrobe books, and this is why it's so important that you have leadership at the table from diverse perspectives. It's important. So have a diverse team, and I have teams that work on certain projects, and one of the teams that worked on one of the projects did not have a lot of diversity within that cohort. And so I got a styling book, and everything was looking great until I got to the styling portion, hair, makeup, wardrobe. And again, I was like, these are some cute outfits and they look great for people who go to UGA. Love it. It was coming from one point of view, one perspective, right? And our customers are global. They're traveling from India. They're going to India. They're traveling from New York. They're going to Spain. They're traveling all around the world. So we have to capture their point of view, their perspective. And it's just as small as what people are wearing, what the background talent is wearing, signals, everything communicates, right? It's as small as having makeup artists on set that can do natural hair, that can do African-American hair, that can do, Indian makeup, right? So you want to make sure that we're not just checking boxes, but we're really thinking about how do we make people feel like they're seen and acknowledged every step of the journey. Casting, got it, but are we making sure that people feel like they are represented at every level of the creative?
And one of the InMobi is based out of India, so we get a lot of things that are produced there, and it's like, you know, the Western market is left out. You know, so it's challenging for a global brand to represent everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think about, like, when we talk about inclusivity, diversity and inclusivity, it's like, okay, diversity. I invited all of these people from different backgrounds to the party, and they're here, they're invited, but did we ask them to dance? Are we teaching them how to do the wobble when they get there, right? Are we talking to them? Are we introducing them to other people? Are we making them feel like they're welcome? So it's one thing to invite someone, it's another thing to make them feel welcome. right? And so those are the ways we make people feel welcome to our brand.
And one of the biggest, I guess, executions against that has been the Faces of Travel.
Again, not my project, but yes, what I did for Faces of Travel, our peers on the brand side, they partnered with Adobe to create this beautiful, just when I think about this campaign, when I watch the campaign, it almost brings me to tears. So the insight was when you Google travel, all you see are the same people traveling. White, blonde, women, men living their best lives, which is great, but it almost signals that no one else travels. Differently able, LGBTQ plus, even just different body shapes. Everyone isn't traveling, jumping off of the cannon with like the bikini and like no booty, right? Right. And so when the insight was, we have to let the world see who's traveling, because these people are traveling, right? And it's so important, because what you see on television and what you see in the media and what you see from creative campaigns, you can't take for granted that some people, that's all they have. That's all they see. That's all they know. And those are the associations they're making. I used to say, and I'm super tangenty, but I used to say that I don't take it for granted that sometimes when I'm in the room, I'm working with people who have never worked with a Black woman before. And all they know about women, Black women, is what they saw on The Apprentice with Omarosa, like knocking over tables and whatever, right? And so I have the responsibility of showing them my true self, and nothing extraordinary, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing so special, just me coming to work, not liking a Monday, sometimes being irritated, not meaning I'm gonna tear the house down, just being myself. And so this Faces of Travel campaign, we wanted to make sure, and when I say we, I went to the photo shoot, it was in Amsterdam. There were some legs of the shoot in Mexico City, but I went to the Amsterdam leg. We just wanted to make sure that people just seemed normal. Nothing extraordinary. Our creative team, we are responsible for the creative that appears on Delta flights. It's the welcome video. And a lot of times you'll see Ed Bastian on those videos. And we were concepting for one of the videos, and our lovely agency partners, it was the DE&I piece, focused with Kira Lynn Johnson, who leads DE&I for Delta. We were brainstorming and they came back and they were like, okay, we have this concept and it's these Black women and they own this winery and they're the most successful winery owners in the history of winery. And they have also done all these amazing things. And I was like, that sounds so amazing. Can we just have some people who travel, who like have their suitcase and maybe their kids are coming with them and they're seeing these beautiful sights and they're taking some selfies, and then let's ship that. How about that? Like nothing extraordinary, right? And the more we start to normalize other people's experiences, the more, to John's point, this is just a session about marketing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I like that, normalizing it. It doesn't have to throw it out of the realm. But thank you, I got it. And I want to make sure I get the wording right, but welcoming, elevating, and caring. I love that mantra. And how do you, within your team, so things you are doing, how do you bring that to life?
Yeah, so we talk about a welcoming, elevated, and caring experience for our customers, but we want to start internal, right? So we want to make sure that our employees feel like they're welcomed, right? So every walk of life, they feel like they're welcomed. And we talk to them, we speak to them. Our team, our creative team, we cover external and internal communications. And so we have a team dedicated to elevating the work that our employees see, because we can't spend all of this money, all of this time, all of this energy speaking to our customers and delivering this beautiful work. And then the creative that we ship to our employees, we're like, okay, PowerPoint, we put as much energy and enthusiasm into the work that we're putting out to communicate to our internal customers that we do for our external customers. So we want everyone on the planes, in the Delta family, to feel like they're welcomed. Elevated, I know sometimes Delta gets a bad rap, and I see this on TikTok all the time where we're like, ooh, we're Delta. And while it's an elevated experience, we want to make sure that everyone feels like it's attainable for them. And so we think about elevation not in the realm of cost or that we're snooty. It's really thinking about going that extra mile for our customers and going the extra mile for our employees. So that's the elevated. When we're talking about elevation, that's what we mean. And then caring, it is what it is, right? So just making sure that our differently abled community feels like they are represented in not only just the creative and the marketing, but actually like we have thought about them when it's time for them to get on a flight. Like, what is that experience, right? Non-binary, are we representing that community in our booking platforms, right? Are we just saying Mr., Mrs., Sir, ma'am? Are we thinking about how we're caring for people and how we're bringing them into the conversation at every point?
I think you represent that pretty darn well too. Just
Thanks.
even in the humility of not wanting to take credit for any of that when you do it. But Delta's walking the walk, which started at the beginning, and I've been very impressed by everything you guys have shared. I think I am running a little bit long though, so let me kick it over to you. Open for a little Q&A.
I am.
Okay, questions from the group?
Hi, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to stand up, but I'm doing so anyway.
I like it.
Hi, I'm Courtney Kessler. I'm on the Danone CE team. It really resonated with me when you said that sometimes you are the only or the first Black woman in the room. And I think, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. It's kind of crazy.
It's emotional. It is.
I'm also pregnant, so that might be it. But how do you, it's a lot of pressure, right? Oh gosh.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
How do you come off correctly, but also strong? Like, that's a lot of pressure. And how do you not take it so personally?
I'm gonna
stop talking.
No. So Courtney, congratulations.
Thanks.
It is emotional, and it's heavy. There's a lot of responsibility, and some days I'm like, I don't want it. But you don't get to choose that, right? So you're representing your ancestors who could not be in the room. See, girl. You're representing other Black women who are at different levels of the organization, who are watching your every move. You're thinking about the people who think you're just there because you check the box. And sometimes you are there just because you check the box, but then you have to outperform to make sure they know that you also deserve to be there. And so sometimes it is heavy, but I think we all have a responsibility, right? So Black women, people of color, allies have a responsibility. And so when you're in that room with the only, whether it's the only Black woman, whether it's the only African, Asian American, whatever that only is, lift them up. Build on their comment. Make sure they get credit for their ideas. But it is heavy sometimes, right? And I think we all walk around with heaviness in some way. You know, as women, we walk around with that heaviness. I don't think men float through the world with no with no issues. But it can be heavy, but it's the responsibility, and you kind of live with that. And I think for people like John and Gina, you understand that responsibility, and it's one that I would not trade for the world, because that's why it's so important to have leaders in a position of power so they can bring others along, so that weight gets a little bit lighter. But thank you for the question.
Great question. Anybody else? Oh, Maya, thank you so much.
Thank you.